Welcome to the MS&Me Radio Network. The broadcast shows are for informational and entertainment purposes only. They are not designed to provide listeners with specific personal, medical, or counseling advice. Individuals with a medical issue should always consult their healthcare provider. MS&Me is not responsible for content of individual shows. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own. Enjoy the show.
Yo, folks and fam. Welcome to MS and Millennial Shit. I'm your host, Ange, and I'm so happy that you're here listening in and joining in. Thank you so much for doing that. I appreciate you so much, and I hope that you have had a wonderful, productive, glorious week. Spring is really in the vibe right now, so I am appreciating it. A bunch of beautiful flowers are popping up, and though there are still some bare trees, we're getting through it, and they're going to be blooming before we know it. So, not blooming, but greening, I guess. And that's really exciting. I hope that, like I said, you all are having a great week, that you're feeling good, that you're stimulated in the best of ways, and again, I thank you so much for just being here and listening, and I hope that you enjoy this dose and what I got for you, which I really don't have much, to be honest, but we'll get to that later. Make sure you're following MS Squared on Facebook and Instagram to keep up with the goings-ons outside of the show and with the show. I have been on this obsession kind of kick with the Swink diet and lifestyle lately. It was something that I mentioned in the last episode that I did, and I actually said something incorrect about it, and I wanted to clarify that the diet and lifestyle, the Roy Swink diet and lifestyle, is not new. It has been researched and implemented for a pretty long time. It was researched for more than 65 years, and Roy Swink basically dedicated his life to this research, and I absolutely am humbled by that, and I totally appreciate it. So I did post something on Instagram to commemorate him. He's no longer living on Earth here, so I definitely give a lot of praise and thanks to him and his endeavors for coming to conclude to this amazing diet that, 60 years of research, you can't really go wrong with that. But yeah, with that being said, I did post something on Instagram. Unfortunately, I forgot that stories disappear after a while, so that is something that you won't see at the moment if you go, or you might, depending on what time when you're listening to this broadcast. But I'm definitely looking to going back and posting something up for him, in addition to other people who I really appreciate, and just doing that soon, because all of this is coming along with discoveries of me discovering more things about MS and the MS community and shout outs and things like that. I initially heard about the Swink diet from actually another show on MS&Me Radio, and totally became immersed in it for about 4 days, and before I knew it, it was time for me to submit another episode for the week, and I did not meet that deadline because I was so intrigued by this. Also, I had a date day with my partner, and that sort of threw things off. It was sort of spontaneous, so I apologize for not coming through last week with the dose, but I'm so happy that I'm back now and I'm doing this and putting it out. I want to thank you and just show my appreciation to you as well. So let me just go ahead and stop lollygagging and get into the thick of it and sort of get into a discussion that I want to have today. So the initial thing about, I guess, everything, all of the information is, learning how to process it, learning how to take things with a grain of salt, as they say, and, really just be selective with the type of information that you expose yourself to when you do have the ability to control that. Because, say I don't have like TV, like I don't watch cable network, I don't have that. I'm very much millennial. Netflix is great, the internet is great, YouTube is wonderful, I'm good on those things. But even in those things, but I'm mentioning more so like just in what you see daily in the news, there's a lot of fear mongering and fear rhetoric and things like that on a daily basis, just for living in general, let alone living with MS. And I know, like, there's no definitive way to at the moment to determine what causes MS, but I know that stress has been a huge factor. So I am happy that I don't have TV, because I feel like even if it's not a very like noticed or a very upfront way of affecting me, it does affect me. Like, for instance, recently the Los Angeles community has been grieving because of a major loss to a vital, of course, infamous rapper and community renovator, just amazing spirit, musical artist and rapper Nipsey Hussle passed away. And that's not something that I directly am experiencing, because, I haven't lived in Los Angeles for 3 years, and I wasn't necessarily from the location that he was from. I definitely live by there, but that isn't what I would say is my home base in the Los Angeles County. But I do have a lot of relationships and connections to that area, to Los Angeles, and so that's been affecting me. And it's really been quite hard to even sum up the way that I've been feeling physically and emotionally, to sort of parallel that, to understand, like, it is from the media that I'm seeing on it, because it's so abundant everywhere on my timelines and things like that, because, being from LA, that is something that everyone is posting. That is something that everyone is paying attention to, which is not a bad thing, because, we are celebrating his life, but at the same time, grief is a tough process and it can be stressful. So when it comes to things like that, maybe you haven't even heard of what's been going on, but maybe you have stuff in your own neck of the woods that is happening in your life, and then you're turning around, and watching news that's not positive, not necessarily positive. There can be a lot of positive things taken from stories we watch in the news, yes, but so much of it is not. And so I've made it a while ago, unless I'm trying to find out whether it's going to be cold outside, whether they expect it to be cold outside, or, the weather conditions and things like that. Like, I really don't tune into the news. And that's been how I've been for a while. I feel like the last happy story that I remember, when I would traditionally, like, habitually watch the news with my mother and things like that, like, the last happy story I remember distinctively seeing as a child was when a baby ape was born at the LA Zoo. And that was like, after that story, it was like 9/11 happened, da-da-da-da happened, and da-da-da-da happened, and da-da-da-da happened, and it's sort of just been a rush of shock and fear. And I have also been diagnosed with PTSD. So a big part of PTSD is just that constant shock that you're experiencing. So I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of us are on the spectrum of PTSD, and unfortunately, it's a real thing. It's created by, the shock as a result of fear, or as a result of drastic change that's sudden. And I feel like that shock and that fear and that change and that unexpectedness and that even hate is further reinforced through media so much. And so a big thing here with MS and millennial shit, and with so much of just community in general, but definitely our community, the MS community, is that, positivity is what is needed to be implemented, and is constantly implemented. I haven't ran into too many unhappy people with MS, and I think that is a pretty incredible occurrence. I've also heard at the same time, in the same breath, in the same result, that the people with MS see the highest rates of suicide, which is intense, because I don't have a direct connection to this either, but I was watching a video on YouTube from this YouTube channel called Cut, and there was a young lady who explained about how her mom got diagnosed with MS and committed suicide, and that blew me away. I immediately started crying. I didn't know this girl personally, but I don't know. I just really felt so strongly at that moment, empathetic, not that I was sympathizing with her, because she had obviously been dealing with it. I don't know if she had completely dealt with it. Death is not something that people usually fully deal with, because we can't fully understand or encapsulate it. We still are having, all these different views that are conflicting about, afterlife and things like that. We don't even focus on the instance of, the death. And so when I saw this girl, I really felt emotionally connected to her, for the loss of her mother in the first place, because that's something that I've personally experienced, but then that her mother did have MS, because both my mother and I do, and did have had MS. And so that was really unexpected. For what I was watching, I would not have expected something like that to happen. That was very, very minute, I guess, for me at least, like, example of receiving shock from unexpected places in unexpected ways. Obviously, it was a story that stuck with me. It wasn't a situation where I feel like I'll wake up at night and, have it on my mind and I won't be able to go to sleep type of thing. But it was definitely something that resonated with me, and I did not initially intend for this dose to be focused so heavily on such a topic, which is probably seen as morbid by a lot of people. But I feel like this is something that, luckily with MS, most of the time I would say, even doctors telling us, this is not something that you'll die from, but this is something that will aid to probably complications in the future that will kill you. But those are things that we really can't control. And so I guess I should basically talk more about coping, and learning to not only grow from these experiences, but to be able to pull yourself up by the shoestrings or by the belt strap and continue to live a full and abundant life of positivity. And that is a lot of the times harder said than done. I have this weird innate positive outlook on things, and I think it's partially my saving grace, partially my downfall, because with that extreme sense of positivity that comes within me, there's an extreme sense of empathy and an extreme sense of compassion, really. And I feel like I'm working on modeling my compassion more, because I don't feel like it's as innate. And I feel like that is sort of like a learned trait from that whole like fight, flight, freeze experience. And I tend to freeze. And I tend to sort of just, I guess, be stuck in that moment. And unfortunately, that hasn't really served me well. And I look, but what I'm doing is I'm constantly looking for ways to adapt and change for the better in my eyes, in ways that I can control. I can't not have MS. I can't not have had MS. I cannot have changed my mother having MS or passing away, or, they're natural matters of life. And I feel like these things are often used as fuel to impose fear. And I don't feel that is right. I don't feel that is productive or conducive to anything positive when we use fear as a guidepost or as a guiding light, for lack of a better term. And it's hard because in order to understand that fear is the navigating factor of your life in any way, you have to recognize it. You have to know what to recognize. So I would like to just sort of like, while I'm at it, just talking about it, get into some things that I've been doing lately to combat, the fear and everything that, and just, I guess it is fear mongering, but like the fear-based lifestyle and things that I've done recently and that I've been doing over time. So what I like to do is that I like to, because I don't feel like I feel like you can know yourself and what you like and what you don't like, but I always feel like there's room for growth all the time and every time until there's no more growth, until there is that death. And I feel like in order to allow myself to grow, I had to really dissect my understandings of why I am the way I am and why I do the things I do and why I choose to react the way I do and at times. And that has led me to, sort of conducting this idea of optimum health and progressive lifestyle, not progressive in the way of like PPMS progressive, but progressive in the way that everything that I do is going toward progress of whatever situation I'm acting for. And there are sayings like, if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for everything. And that is something that I feel like through discovering and really analyzing your own situation, it'll open up to you what's worth fighting for yourself. And I feel like a lot of the things that we sort of rely on are things that we've been programmed by throughout our lives. And so when it comes to really finding out who we are and who we want to become, we already have this sort of like checklist that we think we need to accomplish. And that is usually accompanied by a timeline, which is I don't know about for others with MS, but for me, like MS has caused me to really has aided to me having, low expectancy of myself, low sense of outlook. And when I say sense of outlook, like I didn't have outlook, like I'm just barely starting to outlook on things right now. And it's always been in the moment. And that's not the worst thing, because really when you look at it, the only time we have promised is now. Every single now that we get to experience. And that's like why I said, like in one of the earlier doses of MS and Millennial shit, like when I turned 23, my birthday promise to myself is to fight wasting time and to utilizing time and spending time. I feel like there's definitely power in both of those things, because when you look at wasting and what that signifies, and when you look at spending and what that signifies, it's just a total different outlook. And I feel like there's so much power in the words that we use. And I also definitely encourage like mantras, reciting mantras and just prayer to further continue to re-implement those positive principles in your life that will take you way further, I feel like, than anything else, is just having a positive outlook on your life. It's not on the general life, because, I feel like when I look at life generally and just the status of the world and all these complications, like, our time is valuable without a doubt, and it's really what you make it. And so you can choose to be a Debbie Downer, negative Nancy, all you want about the situation, but there's always room for you to adapt a situation and make it positive for yourself. It really, all it takes is that flipping that switch in your mind, working to flip that switch in your mind, being tired of being tired and being sad and being mad and being frustrated at nothing and everything all at once, and making that decision to renovate your life in that way and sticking to it. And that is a message that just, I don't know, rings so loud and true to me, because I feel like, I don't know, with having MS, with just like the trials of life that I've been presented thus far, like I don't know how far I would have gotten. I would not have gotten this far if it were me, having that negativeness on my side. I luckily have always been led by faith and by optimism. I mean, there's times where I haven't been optimistic. There's times where I did not know what was going to happen next, and where I really did think the worst. Like recently, even with breaking my ankle, with, losing my job and things like that, I definitely felt the throes of that negative imbalance in my life. And what did I do? I decided to turn that around, because I realized that being negative was going to do nothing but put me in a deeper depression hole, which it is around all the time, but I don't have to stay in it. And I don't have to stay immersed in it as much as if I were to value time and value myself and value just my purpose and my existence. And I feel like once you're in that negative state, it's hard to neglect that all those wonderful things about yourself and those principles about life that make you as amazing as you are. And I'm here to let you know, the MS community is here. A lot of people in the world, so many positive people, are here to let us know, we are amazing. We are incredible beings. We are incredible spirits. We are incredible in general. And I think that doesn't make us any better than each other or any worse. I think it just makes us, it gives us a chance to be in control of ourselves in a way that I feel like people are, or the world at large is constantly, negating and trying to tell us that, we don't have control over ourselves. And with MS, it's really hits hard because sometimes we don't have control over ourselves. And so in these moments, at least, when we have these times with our condition, with this process of MS, positivity is so key. Some of us don't have a support system outside of the online support community with the MS-led initiatives. And so what we really need is ourselves, because that's pretty much all we have, unless, we have I have my partner, I have my sister, I have family members that I don't really connect to, but in my immediate, it's my partner and I. And a lot of the times it's not even my partner because, he does his own thing, I do my own thing, and sometimes we just aren't on the same wavelength. But at the end of the day, I love myself, I have faith, and I have y'all. Thank God. Thank goodness that I've been immersing myself in the MS community, because it's just been so eye-opening, so mind-opening, so mind-blowing, and I appreciate it every moment, every single moment. So I want to say thank you again, and this dose is definitely a rant. There was no structure to it. It was just me speaking from the top of my head through the soul of my heart, and I hope that you really enjoyed it. Like I said, follow MS Squared on Facebook, the Facebook page, and also follow m.s_squared on Instagram, and you'll be able to check out things that I do during the week and fun things, hopefully, that I'm going to get into as the weather is deeming things more appropriate. And I hope you have a wonderful week, that you take care of yourself, stay cool, stay good, and stay blessed. Thank you so much for listening. And that is the end of the broadcast for me. You have a wonderful one. MS Squared out.